You are grinding every day. You are logging every step. You are treating your body like a high-performance machine. But just like that, you go from crushing your diet to staring at the mirror, wondering why you suddenly feel emotionally unemployed. That stubborn layer around your midsection is not shrinking. In fact, it might even feel firmer than it did a month ago. It feels unfair, doesn't it? However, everything you know is about to come to an end pretty fast. Because here is the twist nobody tells you. Working harder might be a bad investment. In this video, I'm going to conduct a full review of why this fat is unlike anything else and hand you a 30-day protocol that targets the chaos itself without the high cost of prescriptions. But first, you need to understand that what is inside you isn't just fat. It is an experience. Before we begin, let us know in the comments below where you're watching from, your age, and what the biggest expense, time or money, you're facing during this period is. We're reading and replying to every single comment with customized advice. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more high-value content like this. Now, without any further ado, let's get started. Why visceral fat is different. The medical cost. To fix this, we first need to understand the economics of what we are actually dealing with. Most people think all body fat is the same. They think it is just stored energy, like a battery pack or a savings account you carry around. But this fat didn't just look different, it felt different. It is not just padding, it is actually an active organ. Think of it like a parasite living inside you, draining your metabolic bank account. And what it does next might be one of the most dangerous things happening in your body. This fat isn't the soft stuff you can pinch with your fingers. That is subcutaneous fat. And honestly, that stuff is mostly harmless. Visceral fat is hidden deep inside your abdomen. It wraps itself around your vital organs, your liver, your pancreas, and your intestines. It is a place so dark that even a flashlight starts questioning its life choices. Because it is so deep, it pushes your stomach wall out, creating that hard, rounded look that many of us notice as we get older. Now, why does this matter? Because location is real estate. Since this fat is hugging your organs, it constantly leaks inflammatory chemicals directly into them. This is why visceral fat is the #1 driver for high medical bills associated with high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, and even certain types of cancer. It is physically suffocating your internal systems. But here's the big question. Why does it pile up there specifically? The answer is stress. And I don't just mean feeling busy at work or dealing with traffic. I mean the biological state of survival mode. Here, you don't just fight traffic and emails, you also fight Zeus himself. When you're stressed, your body releases a hormone called cortisol. You've probably heard of it. In small doses, cortisol is great. It wakes you up in the morning and helps you focus. But when you're chronically stressed, whether it's from financial pressure, lack of sleep, or over-exercising, your cortisol levels stay stuck in the on position. Here's exactly what happens biologically. When cortisol floods your system, it thinks you're in immediate physical danger, like you're running from a tiger. So it goes to your muscles and liver and demands quick energy. But where does it get that energy from? It dumps sugar into your bloodstream. But here's the problem. You aren't running from a tiger. You're sitting in traffic or stressing over a credit card bill. So now you have all this massive amount of fuel floating around in your blood with nowhere to go. And just like that, your body decides to dump it in the belly. Why? Because the abdomen has 4 times more cortisol receptors than anywhere else in the body. It's the easiest, fastest place to dump that emergency fuel. Think of your belly fat as a short-term emergency fund. Your body puts the fat there because it thinks, I might need to access this energy again in 5 minutes to survive. It's trying to save your life, but in the process, it's ruining your long-term health assets. This creates a dangerous trap. You see your belly growing, so you panic. You decide to cut your food budget drastically and start doing aggressive, high-intensity cardio. You think you need to burn it off. But while you were busy trying to burn calories, you completely forgot about the biological response. To your body, that sudden lack of food and extreme physical exertion looks like even more stress. It looks like a financial recession has started while you're still running from that tiger. Little did you know, this was about to be the hardest, most intense mistake of your weight loss journey. Instead of burning the fat, your body fights you. It doubles down. It slows your metabolism to conserve energy, like a business cutting costs, and holds on to that visceral fat even tighter. You might lose weight from your face or your legs, but the belly stays. It's not stubbornness, it's biology. You cannot out-exercise a hormone problem. But the story doesn't end there. Before we get to the solution, I'm going to show you exactly what metabolic karma looks like. There's one healthy food you're eating every day that is secretly fueling your cortisol and locking your fat cells shut. Before the next chapter, I just want to say, behind every video is a ton of effort, and the best return on investment for us is knowing you enjoyed it. By liking and commenting, you give me the motivation to keep creating more content. Thank you for being part of this journey. The biological trap. Why free diets fail. Welcome to the chapter I call Metabolic Karma. Here is the answer to that teaser. The dangerous food is actually the breakfast you aren't eating. Intermittent fasting is popular, but for a stressed woman over 40, it acts as a metabolic trigger for famine. You realize your waistline is expanding, so you do the logical thing. You slash your calories in half and skip breakfast. And that's when we did something that will definitely come back to haunt us later. In a normal, relaxed body, this would create a deficit and you would lose weight. But remember, a stressed body is not normal. It is in a state of crisis. When you restrict calories while your cortisol is already sky high, you are sending a terrifying signal to your brain. You are telling it the famine has arrived. Your brain looks at the high stress levels and the low food intake, and it decides that survival is now the only priority. It immediately slows down your thyroid function to conserve energy. It is like turning down the thermostat in your house to save on the heating bill. You feel tired, cold, and sluggish because your body is literally refusing to spend its currency. But what happened next might be one of the most intense moments for your metabolism. Since your brain thinks you are in danger, it needs immediate energy. It doesn't want to burn body fat because fat is a slow-burning fuel. Your brain wants sugar, and it wants it right now. If you are not eating sugar, your body will make its own. This is the part that shocks most people. High cortisol effectively tells your body to eat its own muscle tissue. Let's just say you get a taste of your first metabolic backshot, and to be honest, you have no idea how it's happening. It breaks down the protein in your thighs and your glutes, turns that protein into glucose, and dumps it into your blood. This is why many women over 40 notice their legs getting thinner while their belly gets bigger. You are liquidating your most valuable asset, your muscle, to fuel the storage of visceral fat. Then we have to talk about insulin. You cannot talk about belly fat without talking about insulin. Under normal circumstances, insulin is a storage hormone. But when you are stressed, cortisol makes your cells resistant to insulin. This means your blood sugar stays high and your pancreas has to pump out even more insulin to compensate. High insulin is like a one-way valve on your fat cells. It locks the doors. As long as insulin is elevated, it is physiologically impossible to burn fat. This is exactly why pharmaceutical giants created drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy, because they target this pathway. But before you spend $1,000 a month on a prescription, you need to understand the natural mechanism. So, you have cortisol breaking down your muscle to make sugar, and insulin taking that sugar and locking it into your belly fat. It is a double trap. At this point, you aren't just surrounded by stress, but also by an army of hormones. For women, there is one more layer to this biological trap, and that is estrogen. When you were younger, estrogen acted like a shield. It actually protected against the effects of cortisol. It helped steer fat towards your hips and thighs, which is healthier. But as you approach menopause, estrogen levels drop. That shield is broken. Suddenly, your body becomes incredibly sensitive to stress. The same amount of stress that you handled easily in your 30s now triggers massive fat storage in your 40s. This creates a vicious cycle. The visceral fat itself is inflammatory. It releases cytokines that tell your brain you are sick. This causes more stress, which releases more cortisol, which stores more fat. It is a loop. And the biggest mistake you can make is to try to push through the fatigue. If you are exhausted and you force yourself to do a hard workout, you are just adding more debt to the system. You are pouring gasoline on the fire. You are accelerating the very process you are trying to stop. This trap is unbreakable unless you have the master key. So, lay back, grab your popcorn, and let's dive right into the solution. I'm going to show you the one simple 4-second technique that acts as a manual override, instantly telling your brain you are safe. The 30-day protocol, better value than a gym membership. Now that we know the mechanism, we can flip the switch. We are not just signaling safety, we are reprogramming your body's fat storage instinct. For the next 30 days, we are going to do something that might feel completely backwards to everything you have been told about weight loss. We are going to stop the punishing workouts. If you are currently paying a premium price for high-intensity cardio, boot camps, or breathless spinning classes like Peloton, I want you to press pause. I know, you think you need to sweat to lose weight, but high-intensity exercise causes a massive spike in cortisol. If your bucket is already overflowing with stress, adding a high-intensity workout is just causing it to spill over. For the next month, we need to lower the water level in that bucket. Your primary movement for the next 30 days is walking. But here's the secret. Most people walk wrong. And if you miss this one crucial detail about timing, you lose 80% of the benefit. I am talking about steady, low-impact walking, where you can still hold a conversation. We call this Zone 2 cardio. You can track this on an Apple Watch or a Fitbit, but you don't need to buy one to do it. Here's the magic of it. At this lower intensity, your body does not perceive a threat. It doesn't panic. Because you are not gasping for air, there is plenty of oxygen available in your blood. Why does that matter? Because chemically, you need oxygen to burn fat. High intensity burns sugar. Low intensity burns fat. By walking for 30 minutes every single day, you are gently coaxing your body to tap into those visceral fat stores without triggering the alarm bells. To make this even more effective, try to do this walk outside within the first hour of waking up. This is what researchers call a nature bath. There is fascinating data showing that when your eyes scan a horizon or look at the fractal patterns in trees and leaves, it quiets the amygdala, the fear center of your brain. I swear, the moment you step outside, it feels like therapy, but without the hourly fee. This is the fastest way to turn off the internal noise and anxiety that keeps you up at 3 a.m. A 30-minute walk in a park lowers cortisol significantly more than the same walk on a treadmill facing a television screen. While movement is half the battle, the repair work happens when you are not moving. We need to talk about your sleep architecture. Visceral fat is often a symptom of junk sleep. You might be in bed for 8 hours, but are you getting deep sleep? Deep sleep is when the brain activates the glymphatic system. Think of it as a power washer for your brain. It flushes out metabolic waste and resets your cortisol rhythm. If you are waking up at 3 in the morning with your mind racing, that is not a bladder issue. That is a cortisol issue. Your stress hormones are spiking too early and waking you up. To fix this, you need a strict routine for 30 days. Dark room, cool temperature, and absolutely no blue light from smartphones 1 hour before bed. Finally, we have to address the most immediate signal you send to your nervous system, your breath. Most of us are shallow chest breathers. We take short, quick sips of air into our upper lungs. To your nervous system, this is the breathing pattern of someone who is being chased. It keeps you in fight or flight mode all day long. For this protocol, I want you to practice box breathing for just 2 minutes a day. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold for 4. It sounds too simple to work, but it forces your diaphragm to move. When you breathe deep into your belly, you stimulate the vagus nerve. But what does stimulating the vagus nerve actually do? It physically tells your heart to slow down and your cortisol to drop. It is the manual override switch for stress. By combining gentle walking, nature exposure, deep sleep, and intentional breathing, you are not just burning calories. You are changing the chemical environment of your body. You are turning off the famine signal so your body feels safe enough to finally let go. But remember, the fight wasn't over yet. Movement is half the equation, but you need to fuel the repair process. To fuel that repair, you need a fire extinguisher. I'm going to name the one nutrient that acts like a chemical fire extinguisher, instantly cooling the inflammation. Your goal is to lower the alarm bells ringing in your brain. First, you need more magnesium. Think of this as nature's chill pill. When you are stressed, your body rapidly dumps magnesium, leaving your nervous system wired. Supplementing with 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate acts as a low-cost insurance policy for your sleep. It helps lower cortisol and relax tight muscles. You can find good options at Whole Foods or Walgreens. Just make sure you check the label for glycinate. Next, prioritize omega-3 fatty acids found in salmon or high-quality fish oil. Remember, visceral fat is an active inflammatory organ. Omega-3s act like a fire extinguisher, cooling down systemic inflammation so your body can switch out of defense mode. But timing matters just as much as ingredients. You need to stop eating at least 3 hours before bed. Digestion is active work that raises body temperature. If you eat late, your cortisol stays elevated to manage the food, turning your sleep into a nightmare. Speaking of sleep destroyers, we have to talk about caffeine. It blocks adenosine, the chemical that makes you tired. If you drink a Starbucks coffee at 4 p.m., half of it is still active in your system at 10 p.m. Set a strict cutoff at noon. Finally, hydration is non-negotiable. Even mild dehydration is perceived by the primitive brain as a survival threat, triggering an immediate cortisol spike. Think of water as the coolant for your metabolic engine. Drink mostly early in the day to keep stress signals low. Commit to the daily walk and the nutrient timing for just 30 days. The hardest clutch, the craziest protocol, and honestly one of the best investments you will ever make for your hormones. Sometimes biology gives you fat, sometimes it gives you lessons. Your feedback is what drives this channel. The easiest way to give it is with a simple like and a comment. It's my #1 source of motivation, so I appreciate every single one. Thanks for watching.